Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt. I'm so glad you guys are showing up. I can't say enough. All I can say is thank you. I really appreciate just this opportunity just to spend some time with you, and I hope you're enjoying it. So please keep sending us suggestions for things that you guys want to see, because we're all in on making sure this next year is one of the best years of your life. When your practice gets better, so does your life. Today's episode is with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Mark Hyman. Now, many of you know him. You've seen him. You've either seen him speak or you've seen him on our COVID conference. You're going to see this guy is going to take us into how to thrive in a chaotic environment. And we take a look at all of the life cycles of his practice and what you might be experiencing too. You might be a young dentist thinking, gosh, this is hard. It's true. Building a business is hard. You might be a dental student thinking dental school is hard. It's true. It's hard. There's no sugarcoating it. But you're going to experience chaos. You're going to experience challenge. It's going to happen to anybody in a worthwhile cause. And if you can get your brain right to think about, I got to get through this chaos to the other side, I promise you, things get better. So you can see in this episode, we cover a lot of things. He shares some stories I haven't heard before, and it's pretty awesome. So hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you're looking for an opportunity just to improve your practice, come hang out with us. We got a whole bunch of great events here at actdental.com and ActDentalU. Make sure you check it out at actdental.com. Enjoy the episode. We'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all over. And I know you're going to love this episode. I have on today a dear friend of mine. And if you have been hanging out with us at all, even a little bit, even once in a while, you will know this man. And he has become a dear friend. Every time I see you, buddy, I want to hug you and just thank you. I'll just say this. At the hardest point of my professional career, where I was losing my freaking mind. And that's what we're going to be talking about, thriving in chaotic times. And I'll be hugely vulnerable and transparent. That was probably one of the most difficult times I've ever had in my life. It was right around March 14, 15, 16. I don't even remember. But I went to the bottom emotionally because I actually had a panic attack. And my family was like, Dad, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, it's fine. It's a pandemic. I'm like, you have never been through a pandemic. I have never been, like, our industry is shut down. I don't deal well with lack of control. And you were there for me. So I was texting you almost every single day saying, I need your help. And you're like, how? I go, I don't know. And so we're going to talk about this important topic, which is thriving in chaotic times. But I want people to know, we got a lot of dental students listening, watching. So if they've never met Dr. Mark Hyman, I want you to do a little intro. Tell them who you are. What do you do, Mark? Who are you?
That's a good question, Kirk. Thank you for that kind introduction. Once again, it is just a joy to be in the presence of the master. You're my Yoda master, and I just so appreciate your friendship, your support, and what you did for our blessed profession. For those of you who don't know, when everybody panicked during the COVID shutdown of dentistry, one person in the United States jumped in and took action, and it was Mr. Kirk Behrendt. And Act Dental was with the COVID relief conference, which initially was supposed to be 2 days, then 3 days, and went on how many, 4 months, whatever. And many men and women in the past year, when I've had the privilege of speaking around the country, have come up to me and said, you saved my life. You saved my career. And I say, well, thank you. All I did was follow Kirk. So that you're on today is going to be a gift to you personally and professionally. And that's just really cool. I'm Mark Hyman from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm just a guy who was fixing some teeth. I had the privilege of growing up in Greensboro. I'm a quadruple Tar Heel, in case you haven't noticed a little insignia here.
I love it.
I applied to one college, UNC Chapel Hill. I went to Carolina undergrad dental school, did a 2-year oral medicine hospital dental residency. and then bought basically a bankrupt dental practice in Greensboro, North Carolina. It started July 1st, 1986, made it worse, and then got mad and started going to courses, reading books, hiring coaches, and the practice exploded into a top 1% in the United States practice. So after 32 years of really digging private practice, now I'm an adjunct full professor and special assistant to the Office of the Dean at the UNC Adams School of Dentistry in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm on the admissions committee. I teach practice management, leadership, team building, diagnosis, treatment planning. I teach each of the specialty programs. And I have a group called Breakfast Club where I meet with a group of students at 7 a.m. once a week. I've done that for 5 years, where I bring them snacks and treats, and we just go over case after case after case, diagnosis, treatment, plan it, verbalize it, implement it. You screwed it up. How do you fix it? So this has been a real gift. And I love my school, Kirk, and hoping that the Behrendt family does too.
Yeah. So, we were talking before, hit the go button. You're wearing now I have one of those too. And so our daughter has just been recently given an opportunity and an offer to play at North Carolina. And it was an out of body experience for me. So my heart is just full of gratitude today, every day in the last couple of weeks, because I freaking love that school. And actually, you guys should know this. So I'm out there with Sarah. I'm very nervous. I'm like, oh gosh. Mark's like, hey, come on over and speak to my breakfast club. I'm like, I think I'll be able to do that. And so so I actually went to your breakfast club, which I absolutely love. Those kids are awesome. And I think it's even more awesome what you've done and your commitment to these younger generations of dentists. And it's just a special place. And I can't wait to spend more time with you out there and the dental school and lean heavy into Tar Heel Nation. But I want to go back to a couple things, because we're talking about adversity. Now, we could easily talk about adversity later on or what happened, but I want to go back to even when you went to dental school. So, Mark, I talked to a lot of kids, and I'm actually even talking to a couple right now. They're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in dental school. And I'm like, setting yourself, the world is not just something you get out to and everything is handed to you. You kind of got to get ready for adversity. I tell all the kids your story, and I don't really know the story, but your story is not unusual, where people are like, all you need is one dental school to believe in you. You don't need, and you learned that right away. You actually got in and then thought about quitting. So this whole thing of resiliency has been a theme for you, right?
It has. Kirk, I was our class president. I started dental school at UNC in 1980. I was playing intramural basketball and soccer and flag football and floor hockey. I tell very few people this. I was dating a Dookie. So I hope this isn't live.
You have never, I don't think you've ever shared that.
You caught me at a vulnerable moment. I just shared. And midterms came, and I kind of forgot to study, and I got crushed. In the first week back, spring semester of first year dental school, I quit. I was sitting in my apartment trying to cry, and nothing would come out. And the only way I could get to sleep was to say, this nightmare is over. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. And I went and told the dean I was going to quit. And he said, great, go to class, come back at halftime, we'll sign you out.
Wow.
And I walked out of the dean's office and ran into a young professor, Dr. Ron Strauss, who saved my life. And he said, Mark, it's okay. Being a dental student is nothing like being a dentist. Just give it another hour, give it a day, see how you do. And I had a decent morning, went back to the dean and told him I wasn't going to quit. And he acted disappointed. May he rest in pieces. And I muddled my way through the rest of the semester. I started in patient care that summer, and I graduated dental school in 3.5 years. They don't let you do that anymore. So then I went to Israel. I moved to the Holy Land for 4 months and worked as a volunteer dentist on a kibbutz just north of the Sea of Galilee. My last week there, I met my wife. Awesome. So it was a very profitable trip, and came back, did the residency, bought my dental practice, which then was bankrupt, and I made it worse, got mad again, rallied, and built it into something special. So chaotic times, turbulent times. There's nobody that has had an easy road these past couple years.
Right.
And for me, on the admissions committee at UNC, the biggest thing I'm looking for is resiliency. It's grit. It's stick-to-itiveness. I love interviewing and offering positions to athletes, musicians, right, artists, men and women who've been knocked on their butt and got back up.
Yeah.
Because that's dentistry. I'll tell our students, I'd rather take a student with a 3.99 average than a 4.0, because there's no 4.0s in dentistry. There's no perfection chairside clinically. It's an impossibility.
Right.
And so it's kind of, again, cliche to say, well, strive for perfection and accept excellence. That's the way that you will last in this profession. If you devastate yourself every time you fail, every time you stub your toe, it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
Let me ask you about that. So, like, I've watched you interact with these kids. You love these kids. You work with these kids. They're vulnerable with you about their stuff. So let me be the dental student who's on the other side of the country. Mark, you understand, man, I got a lot of debt. I mean, and now there's what's called the imposter syndrome, which I didn't know really was a real deal, where, you know, people question themselves if they're really, like, it's important. What would you say to somebody who's like questioning their future in dentistry? Because you talk to these kids all the time. What would you tell them?
Well, I got that call yesterday from one of my students,
right,
who had stubbed their toe on a final exam and's got to retake it.
Okay.
And they were questioning whether they belonged at UNC. And I said, we picked you for a reason. We had about 2,000 initial applicants per year. We interview 240. We take 82. I said, we picked you for a reason. You're looking at yourself and saying, well, I'm last in my class. No, you're 82 out of 2,000. So there's no question you can do the work. It's, are you willing to stick to it? Are you willing to hang in there and keep slogging away, keep chucking, keep chopping, keep fighting your way through it? There isn't anything in dental school by itself that's too hard to do. It's just you're drinking from a fire hose.
Right.
There is so much coming at you. It can become overwhelming. And so that's what I try to say is you're not the first person that face planted in dental school. You couldn't have done worse than I did at first. But then I finished in 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So the way you start isn't the end of the story.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to say is survive in advance. Take it a moment at a time, an hour at a time, a day at a time, a week at a time. Don't look and say, how can I do this for 3.5 more years? Just say, for this next hour, I got to do this.
Yeah.
I got to do this piece. And what's next?
Yeah. I really like how you're laying this out. And you've had an amazing career in dentistry, amazing dentist, amazing career in these life cycles. Let's go through each part of the life cycle. So we're talking about dental school. Now, I also get this. I just graduated. I can't find the right opportunity. Let's go to the next stage of lifestyle. I want you to tell your story and how that was chaotic. You just didn't walk into a practice that everything was ready to go. So amazing dentist.
Actually, I did.
Oh, you did?
Wait, go back. 2 days and got fired.
I knew there was a Paul Harvey rest of the story there.
Yeah, so there were at the time, the most successful high-profile practice in Greensboro was a wonderful young man, Dr. Reed Clark, rest in peace. He has since passed away. He was my idol and my hero. He had the biggest, most successful practice, gorgeous office, brilliant teammates, crushing it. And we met, and he wanted to bring me in as an associate. He went on vacation for 2 days. I filled in for him those 2 days. He came back, and I lovingly say I got fired. At that time, he decided not to bring in an associate. He was going to build a new house. He decided not to build a house. He was pre-engaged to a woman, didn't marry her. He kind of pulled his whole life back. But he became a dear, dear friend of mine and one of my heroes and role models. And there was a lot of jealousy towards him because at such a young age, he was so successful. But the 3 magic words, Kirk, you've heard me say this before. I got it from Dale Carnegie. Success leaves clues.
Yeah.
So what did Dr. Clark do? He hired brilliant teammates. He trained them. He got out of their way. He worked with consultants nonstop. He read a lot of books. My 3rd month in private practice, he said, you want to go to the Pankey Institute with me? And I'm like,
did you know about Pankey before that?
I did not.
Okay.
Actually, first we went to see Alvin Filastri together, who I think has since passed away. And then we went to Pankey together. And we went to Pankey every January till I went through the Pankey process, and then I had the privilege of teaching there for several years.
Wow.
So,
yeah, but he was bringing his competition.
You know, that's interesting. My pop always said when I would tell him I'm doing these seminars, he's like, why are you training your competition?
Yeah.
I said, they're not my competition. My competition is a 70-inch LCD monitor.
Right.
It's a trip to the beach. It's a bass boat. It's Tar Heel tickets. less than half the population even goes to the dentist every year. If we raise the utilization 1%, we're so busy we can't see straight.
Right.
And Kirk, I know you see this in your clients. It's kind of cliche. You hear that every practice has about $1 million of undone dentistry sitting on the books. So practices are underdiagnosed, under-treatment planned, under-communicated. So that's the gift if you can give a team the verbal skills and the confidence to get to know their patient, to ask what their goals are for their health, teeth, and smile, and then give it to them.
Yeah. Now, go into a little bit more detail. Like we were talking about thriving chaotic times, talk about the practice that you got into. That this was, I don't think I've ever heard the story about Reed. So take us through the practice you purchased.
Sure. So basically I got fired. Okay. I had a wife. I'm finishing my 2-year residency. I've got 4 months till I graduate. I have no job. And then I heard about a practice in Greensboro that the dentist wanted to sell.
Okay.
And he was old. He was 37. I was 27. And I'm like, and I went and observed a couple times. And this was a dear, sweet man.
Okay.
Very good dentist. But patient after patient came through and he'd look at him and say, you don't want that fixed, do you? You don't want me to do that, do you? A professor from UNC Greensboro came in, gorgeous woman, number 8, fractured in half. And he looked at her and said, you don't want that fixed, do you? And I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
Why don't you walk into a dental office?
Yeah.
So
how long did you work under those?
So I bought the practice July 1st. I had a 3-month contract for him to work for me. The second day I wanted him to leave. And again, he was a dear soul. We just really saw the world differently. And he kept talking people out of treatment. And so I made things worse. And my 3rd month of private practice, he left and I went to a Linda Miles seminar.
Okay.
And Linda looked at me, some pathetic character from some Oliver Twist novel. Please, sir, may I have some more? I said, Linda, I bought this practice. I don't know what I'm doing. She said, poor child, let's have lunch. And she listened to me whine and moan and complain and said, why don't you do this, that? Gave me 5 little ideas. Next month, the practice doubled and then doubled and then doubled. And it just went nuts. So
yeah, Mark, I don't have the money to work with a Linda Miles.
I understand that.
And I don't need some coach telling me how to run a
consulting's expensive, right?
Right.
And the Tar Heel answer for that for my students, if they don't answer this, I get all over them. When someone says something's expensive, the answer is compared to what?
Right.
Compared to what?
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, let me piggyback.
It's such a dental way to think. I want the men and women of dentistry to take their dental hats off and become businessmen and women and say, would I pay $200 a day for a coach that would increase my practice $1,000 a day?
Right.
Most dentists work 200 days a year. That's a $200,000 increase over 5 years. It's $1 million change for $200 a day. Basically a Panorex, a facial pit, a whitening. Would you give up one procedure per day to add $1 million in 5 years?
Yeah.
You'll never do that in the stock market. So that coaching, dollars per day per coaching is the cheapest money you'll ever spend in your career.
Now, I totally agree with that. I think in when you're looking at your business, it's either ignorant or negligible when you say, no, I can figure all this out. Now, let me go back to this because you said to me one time, I'm getting older now, so I just don't even care anymore. We were on the road together. And you were like, we were talking about influences, and this was way back. And you go, Linda, if there's a Hall of Fame, she's going to be the first inductee. And when you said that, I'm like, you know what, you're right, because she's a special person. I hope she listens to this, because I had her come out and help me at one of the hard. You talk about thriving through chaos. And Linda does not mess around. Like, she came right in, like all guns blazing. I was like, we should probably say hi to everyone. Now, she was super sweet, but when behind closed doors, she punched me, like not physically, but like she came right at me, and every word was not wasted. She told me exactly. She also said, beware, don't do that. It was worth its weight in gold in 2 hours. And so the impact, and I'm sure the impact was you. Talk about chaotic times. It's almost cliche. When the student is, you guys have all heard this, when the student is what? The what?
The student is ready, the teacher appears.
And sometimes she punches you in the face. And so
been there, done that one.
Now this podcast is not about me. This is about you thriving chaotic times. So what happened after that? So wait. I know what happened. Your practice just scaled and it was constant success and you never look back and it's just been a charming career, right?
Isn't it great to live in Disney World? We had ups and downs big time.
Okay.
But, when I look at my Hall of Fame, I look at Linda Miles, Kathy Jameson, Naomi Rhodey, Erwin Becker, Gordon Christensen, and you, young man, you have made such an impact on dentistry. It's unbelievable. My practice grew and thrived, and we kept growing. I brought in an associate. I started 1996. I brought in a woman partner to the practice. We worked together 8.5 years. Loved her when I see her. Now we hug and kiss, and life is cool. But after 19 years of private practice, I got fired. After 19 years of private practice, we had a 5-operatory office for 2 doctors, 2 hygienists.
Okay,
and we were just busting at the seams, philosophically very different. I sent her through all the courses at the Pankey Institute, sent her through Dale Carnegie training. I gave her a private day with my coach, everything I could. And I recognized that we were good people, we just weren't meant to be together.
Mm-hmm. So what happened after that?
So being a shrewd businessman, we had a deal in our contract. Anyone who left the partnership basically had to leave everything. And if I had invoked our contract, she would have been bankrupt. So I took my Cerac machine and left everything else. I took half my patients, bought a building, moved into it, and had 8 operatories.
Right. Now go back to that. That happens. And when that happens, let's just speak to the clarity of it. When you break up a partnership, that's
it was
not
awful.
It's not one of those things you go, hey, not a problem.
Like no, it was devastating.
How so? Like emotionally, financially?
Financially, I was already in a strong position, and I made more money than I would have ever dreamed of, and I'm not poo-pooing that. I loved being successful.
Right.
I love being able to take good care of my family and charity and be debt-free. But it was devastating.
So what did you do after that? Like, I know, like, you took us through the steps, but was that like did you think about your next move? Like, we got to do the next move and make it the right one.
I did. Well, in January, we told the team that we were breaking up. And, my folks divorced summer before my senior year of high school, and they ended up good friends. They couldn't live together, and I'm very grateful, but I felt like it was telling the children we're getting divorced.
Right.
It was really pretty awful. And then there was the battle over, we agreed that the teammates that I had hired would come with me, and the ones that she had hired would stay with her.
Right.
She hadn't really hired anybody. And then we had a battle over that, and then we had the agreement, whoever brought the patients into the practice would take them with them.
Right.
And now 99% of the patients I had brought in, and then there was a battle over that. So basically I took half the patients, left all my equipment, moved to the new facility, which I bought in January. Patterson Dental, God bless them. I basically said, don't mess with me.
Right. Don't
tell me June 1st I'm moving in and it'd be August 1st. I can't hang with that.
Okay, so go back to that. How old were you? How
old was I? That was I was 47.
Okay, so you don't have to give us all, but usually
I'll tell you anything. But
when something chaotic happens, we usually come up with some things we know for sure or some resolve. Like, okay, that hurt. This is what I know for sure. Moving forward, anything you could answer. What did you learn for sure about yourself?
Moving for sure, I adored my former partner. I knew from the second day it wasn't the right fit. And for 8.5 years, I tried to put a square peg in a round hole. And she's fabulous. We just weren't a good fit professionally.
Right.
But I kept saying, I can educate her. I can raise her game. I can figure this out because I can solve it. I can save this. And I was wrong. So I had some associates after that when we realized it wasn't going to be a long-term fit, it was still painful, but I didn't last as long.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that was a big realization.
And I also resolved to not do a business deal like that again, which just wasn't a win-win situation. I was committed to her, and I allowed a bad business deal. And that's just not smart.
Yeah, and I think it's important, Mark, like if you're a dentist listening, it's okay to lose, but don't lose the lesson.
Don't do it twice.
And don't do it twice. That's when you go crazy, because I've done it where I've done this before. And then there's, again, this is cliche, but that's when you start to go insane. You're like, I've made that mistake. Nito Cobain used to say, Kirk, it's okay to make a mistake, but to repeat it is stupid. He used to tell me that all the time. I'm like, you're smarter than you know. And he's like, I've done it, So learning from that mistake, take us through when we talk about the next life cycle. So what happened after that?
So we moved to the new facility, which was 8 operatories. My wife said, you're going to fill every chair the first day. I'm like, no, I'm not. We're only going to book 5 of them. First day I had 8 patients in 8 chairs, was running around like a madman. So that was 2005. 2009, I brought an associate, wonderful young man, very talented. We worked together for a year. He chose to do his own thing. Going forward, one of the saving graces was my coach that I worked with was Dr. Kathy Jameson. So appreciated her expertise. And it also, at the time, her getting in my face and saying, how dare you? Mm-hmm. How dare you go on the road and teach one thing and then come back to this practice and do the other? You want to talk about the little bit of sweating going on, Kirk?
For sure.
Unbelievable. But so basically, it took us about 6 months for me to produce more myself than the 2 of us had done together. Mm-hmm. So once we got the systems up and rolling, basically over a 24-month period, the practice grew $500,000.
Yeah, but growth is easy, right? It just lends itself, like it's just easy, and then you figure everything out. And again, I'm being facetious here, but
we had 8 operatories. So back to the success leaves clues. We had 8 operatories of ADEC equipment. Right. We had 8 Digidoc intraoral cameras. The policy, you've heard me say this, picture on every patient before, during, and after. That is the single signature thing I teach my students at Chapel Hill and that I offer in my seminars, is we are a visual society. Yeah. So we really pushed documenting quality photographs. We had 8 operatories. We had 8 intraoral cameras. We had 8 isolites. So we had success systems going forward. We work with buffering of the local anesthesia. If people haven't heard of that, the company is On Pharma. The product is Onset, ONSET. Dr. McFaulkle is a dentist and a chemist from California. He invented this. Basically, the time for your mandibular blocks to work shrink from 15 minutes to 90 seconds. And it's the most painless injection you ever gave. So we had efficiency success systems in multiple curing lights in each operatory, isolite on every patient, buffered anesthesia on every patient, before, during, and after photo on every patient. And so our efficiency and effectiveness just became unbelievable.
Yeah. And then, speak to this, because you've actually shared this in the COVID conference, the people element. So we talk about chaos, and I'm an I on the disc profile. So, and you're high I. So
high I.
I hate conflict. I love people. And when those issues come up, you talk about chaos. I would get physically sick when people do not. Was that the same experience for you? Because when you grow, you have to grow people. You got to think better. And you had challenge. Like, it's not like, oh, you just had the perfect team forever. You had to make some decisions along the way, right?
I did, big time. I was honored, Kirk, for the women that I worked for. I love to describe it like that. My Mary Catherine Ward, my receptionist, was with me 25 years. My lead dental assistant, Athena Escovedo Calloway, was with me 19 years. 3 of the hygienists were 15 years. They were unbelievable, but I had some teammates that weren't good fits either. The best advice I could give somebody listening today is, if you make a bad hire, let them grow elsewhere as fast as possible. Don't try to heal them. Don't try to solve them, save them, rescue them. If it's a bad fit, it's okay to say, let me help you grow elsewhere.
Yeah. So let me add this, because you're hearing this too. Mark, you don't understand. There's nobody out there.
I understand.
Easy for you to say. So I get these questions I'm going to throw.
And I love hearing that. And the fact is, every teammate I just mentioned, every one of them worked for another dentist before me, didn't stay, and then came to me and stayed for decades. Yeah. So they were these priceless gems that just hadn't been polished. My 19-year assistant, who I adore to this day, you've met her.
Awesome.
Tina, her former office, she asked would you please send me to continuing education? And the answer she got was, I just don't think you need it. I'm like, oh my God, I just don't think you need it. So to me, I love my teammates enough to try to educate them, even to the point sometimes they moved on to other things. Yeah. We read a lot of books as an office. We did a lot of consulting. We went to a lot of courses. We did a dream trip every year. I took the team together to the Hyman in Atlanta, to Orlando in Florida, to Vegas a couple times, to San Francisco for the ADA. So I invested in them heavily, and they gave me a level of love and loyalty that was unbelievable. That said, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made is I had a teammate that had fallen way down on their luck, and I just couldn't pull the trigger to fire her, and one of my valued teammates quit and then came back, but she was so upset that I was being so taken advantage of.
Wait. You were given in the ultimatum. And so we talk about this, like nothing makes a great team member crazy than when you tolerate a bad one. And often what happens in that scenario is you lose both of them. You lose the good one and eventually the bad one, but you lost the good one before the bad one, huh?
Then the bad one quit and the good one came back.
What's the lesson in there? What's the lesson? Tell me the lesson.
The lesson is your teammates who love you and adore you and that you have put your faith and trust in all those years, listen to them.
Yeah. They
know better. The times when I've been bit in the butt, Kirk, chair side, is when a new patient comes in and the team will take me aside and say, they don't fit, don't do it. And I'm like, oh, baby, I got this. Yeah. I can win them over. I can talk my way in. They're like, don't do it.
Yeah.
In 32 years, Kirk, I got sued once. Wow. It broke my heart. It took 5 years to settle. And it was just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And the team told me, don't treat her. And I'm like,
And you thought you were smarter than them.
She'd sued her plastic surgeon. She'd sued her orthodontist. And I'm like, I can win this woman over. And I did not. And I got sued. And interestingly, a former professor of mine at UNC agreed to testify against me. And that broke my heart even worse.
Wow.
And worse is he took her on as a patient to redo my dentistry. And then she sued him. And I'm like,
oh, God.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard that story. Here, do me a favor, just tuck your microphone's just rubbing against.
Flipping again.
Yeah, that's all right. I want to hear the rest of this. So, when you other chaotic times, so you've made it through those times, and then as you started to life cycle out of dentistry, did you experience any chaos, or was it a pretty smooth transition when you wanted to retire?
The question about how did I transition out of dentistry? I love dentistry. I adored private practice. I loved my team. I loved my patients. I loved being Dr. Mark to people. And physically, my body started breaking down. My L4, L5 blew out. That's something I'm really picky with my students, right, is protecting themselves ergonomically. Yeah. Anybody that hadn't heard Dr. Bethany Valahi from Oregon, you've got to master the ergonomics and your physical health, because I did not. And so I just was breaking down physically and couldn't do the dentistry anymore. By 10 o'clock every morning, I was in our sterilization area taking 800 milligrams of Advil, 10 o'clock every day. And I'm like, this is not a way to live.
Right.
So I had a young protege who was going to buy the practice, and he is the most talented young dentist I've ever seen. He chose to do his own thing, and it's all completely cool. And I had a young man who was a former student of mine. He and his wife wanted to buy the practice, and that's what I did to transition to them. And I agreed to stay 3 months and stayed 15 months, wow, which was a gift, because I got to start to say goodbye to people, Kirk. And it was really hard. I had some patients get in my face and say, "What are you doing to me?" Mm-hmm. I'm like, "What am I doing to you? I'm not doing anything. I just can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
I had some who I loved, and they immediately left the practice. And I'm like, I'm not dead. I'm still here.
Right.
They're like, well, you're going to leave sometime. And others stayed. And so I learned a ton and continued to grow. And it was healthy for me to be able to say goodbye to these people I had been in such a relationship with for so long. Probably the biggest thing I didn't realize, Kirk, is we've talked about how I felt, it was devastating. The thought of what am I going to do when I'm not Dr. Mark anymore? I left the practice 2 weeks, family and I went on a vacation, came back, and I started at the dental school in January. So I think it's important to rewire, not retire.
Yeah.
Is to retire to something and not just stop cold turkey.
Yeah. Ken Blanchard used to say, refire up.
Love it.
Don't
love
retire.
It.
But
love it. The thing that I missed there, Kirk,
yeah,
is I talked about the patients.
Yeah.
I talked about me. Who'd I leave out? My team.
Your team.
The team who'd been with me for 25 years, 19 years, 15 years. All of a sudden, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not going to be here?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be fine. You're just going to work for someone else. So some of my teammates stayed and some did not. And that's what you have to expect for young dentists. If you buy a practice and you think you're going to have the goodwill of long-term teammates, you may well, or you may have to replace the entire team.
Right.
That may be a tough thing. It may be the best thing that ever happened to you because you get to really put your own shine on the practice.
Yeah, buddy, I've learned so many. You share a lot with me. You always do. But like, I learned some nuances today in your story. I always love learning everybody's, well, your story is really important and just the details. And I think the lesson is really, it's a good one. And if you're a young dentist listening, I want you to listen to what Mark said. Like, I hope you can prepare yourself to understand, like, it's not going to be this straight path. It's a little bumpy at times. Sometimes it goes off, but I don't know anyone that got out of dental school and just got on this road and it was a straight ride to the top. Would you agree?
I agree. And had I stayed with Reed Clark in this gorgeous office with this well-trained team and the beautiful equipment and coaches and consultants and systems and seminars and books, I would have never felt that I did it myself.
Yeah.
So to me, it was a great thing that I had that relationship and I had that role model. And I hope, interestingly, I had a dentist when it was announced I was going to work with Reed. He said, "Man, how'd you get a job there? That's the best practice in Greensboro, you know? If I could be a fly on the wall in that office for one day, I could really be successful. I could be something." And I said, "Well, give him a call. He's a great guy. Man, I've learned a ton from him." And the guy said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." 10 years later, I'm at Dental Society. The same guy sidles up to me. "Mark, I heard you got the best practice in Greensboro. I heard you really got it going on. You know, if I could be a fly on the wall in your office for one day, I could really be something special. I could really be successful." And I said, "You know where we are. I'm there Monday to Thursday. Come hang with us." Kirk, do you think he ever called?
No, they don't.
He never did.
Yeah.
And why not? Why not, bud?
not?
Because we may see a teammate that fired us. We may be at another office and see a patient that fired us. Because, we're going to miss that production for that half day watching a master dentist run his or her practice.
Yeah. Bob Margis has publicly said to anyone, "Come, if you want to come. You know how many people have shown up? Probably in his entire career? Less than 5. It's crazy. Why wouldn't you? You would learn more in 8 hours or 7 hours or 6 hours, whatever, than you could learn ever by yourself.
You couldn't write a big enough check spending one day with Bob Margis just on act. Listening to him, I'm like, he is so smart and so talented and so humble. And that's back to what we were saying. Why are you training your competition? We're not training our competition.
Right.
There's enough work for everybody. And dentistry done right is such a joy. And when it's done without systems, without good coaching, without good equipment, without policies and predictability, it can be a nightmare. It's not a whole lot of fun that way. But I so loved being part of the ACT University family, Kirk. I so appreciated your trust in me. And I learned a ton. A lot of people said nice things to me and about my work. I learned 10x from everything I gave. So it was a joy.
Yeah, it's such a joy. And so, buddy, I love this. Any last thoughts or words of wisdom you would leave for the people listening just about thriving through chaos as we, kind of bring this to a close?
I scribbled down a couple quick little thoughts because I figured you were going to ask me that.
Please.
Number one, it's all about the relationships, and your team comes first, not the patient. Yep. Your patient's always right. They just don't have to be your patient.
Right.
You have got to protect your team, and they are hurting, many of them. So relationships with patients, protecting your team. I like the concept of going narrow and deep. You can't be all things to all people, but you can get really good at a certain number of things at dentistry and be tremendously successful. Being Tar Heels, the idea that you point to the assist man or woman and say thank you, the appreciation factor.
You got to tell the story because I know what the story is.
Coach Dean Smith in the 1960s, if you watch a basketball game, you see a player shoot, score, and then they point. Coach Smith started that it was required once you scored a basket, you turned and you pointed to the man or woman who passed you the ball, because without the ball, you cannot score. So I want every dental practice to point to the assist man or woman and say thank you, to catch the team doing things right instead of doing things wrong. It makes all the difference.
Love that.
And to bring that culture of abundance and appreciation instead of negativity. And let me tell you the 3 things you screwed up today. Instead of the 97 you did right, you're just going to be a whole lot more successful. And the final point, Kirk, give yourself some grace during these tough times. Yeah. Everybody's had it tough. Everyone's got a story. And we are in the greatest profession in the world. What I think is the greatest time there ever has been to be a dentist. Why would you want to practice without intraoral cameras, without isolites, without buffering, without implants, without aligner therapy, without sleep medicine, without all of these things we have in modern dentistry? I don't want to go back to 1980, 1990. We got storm clouds over the profession. Yeah, sure we do. But this is the greatest time it's ever been to be a dentist, and everybody can benefit from a coach. Kirk, I learned a ton from you, and I appreciate your nice words, and I just wish everybody a safe and wonderful holiday. And go Tar Heels, baby.
Woo! Go Tar Heels. I'm so excited. Well, I'll get all that right. But, buddy, thank you so much for joining us. I want people to know how to get a hold of you. Like, if you've got a study club, you never had Mark Hyman speak, you got to get him to speak. If you've never seen him speak, you got to go, because I enjoy the heck. I actually laugh out loud. And it's really, it's edutainment at the highest level. You're going to get educated, but you're also going to be entertained. How the heck do I get a hold of you if I want to reach out to you?
Well, my speaking website is Dr. Mark Speaks, drmarkspeaks.com. My private email is drmark@drmarkspeaks if somebody wants to write me. If someone is dying and needs a shoulder, my cell phone is 336-456-6728. Give me a holler. You're not in this alone. So many people went to bat for me. I'm honored to do my part as long as you promise to take care of somebody down the road. And that's really important. Kirk, I'm on the road. I'm going to be with you, I believe, at the Hyman in Atlanta in March, at the ADA in Houston in October. We're going to be on the road together some this year.
That's awesome.
And it should be some serious non-Christian behavior, but I'm Jewish, so it doesn't matter. So I'm excited.
Hey, well, I'm Christian, so we're going to we got to stay in the lanes here. But, buddy, I'm so grateful. Thank you for being on. And I always appreciate your friendship. Just your mentorship. Every time I see you, I just give you a big hug. You had so much value to our lives and everybody else's lives that you touch, and I appreciate who you are, brother. So stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else, but thank you guys for watching the Best Practices show. Hey, if you enjoyed today, which I know you did, just do us a favor. Hit the share button. Share this episode with your friends or people that you love, just to let them know, hey, look, you can thrive in chaotic times. Everybody deals with setbacks. It's how they respond to them. And my hope is you were able to see a little bit of that in the episode. So please keep sending us suggestions for things that you want to see, not only from Dr. Mark, but we'll keep lining them up and add some value. And just like Mark said, I hope you guys have an awesome holiday season. Get ready. 2022 will be the best year of your career.
Amen.
And we are in the greatest profession ever. Don't ever forget that. When you create a better practice, you create a better life. We wish the very best for you. So until we see you guys next time, keep watching the Best Practices show. You guys enjoy your day.